Guys, gals, and non-binary pals, welcome back to another episode of the CineMatch podcast, the podcast where we take different movies every week and debate and rate them. My name is Cal Altimus. I am one of your hosts, and joining me here to do every episode, looking very dapper today, is Mr. Nathan Sackle-Hanna. How are you doing?
I'm not bad. Like I just said, I came straight from work and I really couldn't be asked to get dressed. But it's a rom-com episode, so it's like I've dressed up for a date. And I imagine that's what you'd wear for a date as well. So
It's been that long since I had a first date. I don't know what the fuck. I think I actually made an effort the first time I met Eleanor. That's went out window straight away. But the first time we met, I think I led her under false pretenses and I looked really good. But yeah, from there on, hoodie, shorts, always my way forward. But yeah, we are doing a couple of rom-coms. What, sorry?
How are you this week?
Oh yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, I tell you what, I said it last week. I was about to start me week long of shifts. One more to go, and I'm off. I got to get through tomorrow, and then I've got a couple of days off, and I'm excited. I need a fucking break.
Long week?
Very long. I mean, I love my job, but there's been some big news in like football and wrestling this week. So there's been a lot of stuff like needed covering. Like, I know you don't care about football, but like the Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp announced he was leaving earlier this week.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I had to write an article ranking every single one of the signings he's made at Liverpool over the last 8 years, which is 45 players. And it got to about 5,000 words and took me about 4 hours. It was long as shit. But who am I to complain? I get to write about football.
Is it Vince McMahon?
Oh, yeah. There's some drama about that old bum and all.
Yeah, I've only seen bits and bobs because obviously I don't follow it. I pretty much see what you've shared and stuff.
Yeah.
You've been pooing on people.
Yeah. There's some fucking really weird shit in those lawsuits. So hopefully that crusty bastard is sent somewhere no one ever sees him again. But yeah, I'm all right. I'm excited because we are now entering the month of February, the month of Valentine's. So we're doing an entire month of rom-coms, and we are starting off,
which I've immediately regretted.
Yeah. It was your idea, and you immediately regret it because we're starting off with two of like the quintessential 90s rom-coms, which a lot of people regard as some of the very best. Both by Nora Ephron, who is very famous for her work in the rom-com genre. Like she wrote When Harry Met Sally, and she directed both of these. We're doing Sleepless in Seattle, starring Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, against You've Got Mail, starring Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. Like I said, these two are regarded as classics by like serious like rom-com fans and stuff. And I know you don't really watch the genre. So in terms of
not
big rom-coms, how familiar are you with rom-coms? How many, like, would you say you've watched many of like the big famous ones or not?
No, I think the only the one that I really like, well, I don't know if it's a rom-com, but it's definitely one of the, is it correct to say girly movie? But like traditionally, the biggest one that I've seen that I really love, and you hate, is Dirty Dancing.
Yeah, that one's dodgy.
But the one definite rom-com that I know I love, and I will defend it forever, is not defend. It doesn't need defending. You've not seen it yet, but Crazy Stupid Love. That is the best one of all time.
That is held in very high regard.
Yeah, but outside of that, no, not really, because obviously as a lad I've grown up like, I'm not watching that shit. And as I've grown older, obviously with partners, I've watched stuff, but it's never really been anything that I've been really interested in. They just all, I mean, we'll get into it here with these two films, but I see all the faults rather than all the romantic bits, and I'm like, well, that's fucking not right. But we'll get into that.
Yeah, I'm obviously much more of a rom-com guy. I mean, as a teenager, I think I was the same. I was like, I ain't watching that. It's too girly or too soppy. And then as I got to about 15, 16, I was like, nah, fuck that. Give me Freddie Prinze Jr. and She's All That. Like, what a fucking film. Like, just, I could watch them all. I mean, I enjoy them. I mean, I'm not like a hopeless romantic. I'm the same as you in the sense that I watch them and I think that is not acceptable. Like, we should not be glossing over what the fuck we're seeing right now. And especially with older ones like these, you do notice some seriously questionable behavior. But yeah, Sleepless in Seattle, not Sleeping with Seattle, like I accidentally said to the other day. I don't know where the fuck I got that from. No idea what that is. No idea whatsoever.
I've watched Sleeping with Seattle and You've Got Mails. They were very weird films. There's a lot of hardcore pornography in them.
Yeah, I mean, if you had, they might have got a better score than what you've given these, not to give too much away.
Maybe not You've Got Mails, but definitely Sleeping with Seattle, maybe.
But yeah, we are doing Sleepless in Seattle versus You've Got Mail because, like I said, to like most people, these two are regarded as two of the biggest movies in the romantic comedy genre, and two are like the best examples, especially from the 90s when rom-coms seem to be like one of the biggest things going in movies. We'll get straight into it then because we chose these because it's directed and written by the same person, Nora Ephron. The starring the exact same two people, Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. It actually just made sense to do them against each other. That could have been weird if we did one against anything else. As certain someone that we both know felt like they needed to let me know in a message earlier this week. I got a message like, "You better not be doing this against anything other than You've Got Mail."
Is it my sister-in-law by any chance?
I'm not naming names.
Not giving her the airtime.
No, not at all.
She messaged me as soon as we posted the first clip from Sleepless in Seattle. Do you know what? Now I'm thinking, because we've been joking calling it Sleeping with Seattle all week. I've been in my head. I'm like, is it Sleepless in Seattle, or I'm confusing myself? But yeah, she messaged me being like, this might be the one I actually listened to.
Charming. At least she fucking cares, eh? At least she cares.
Be impressed.
She's not going to be happy with the episode, I don't think.
No.
Let's get straight into it then, because we've both got, we said this before we started recording, we've got a lot of thoughts on this one. So we'll start off with the story in both movies. They're very different in that sense. Like, they've got the same cast, but the stories are quite different. In Sleepless in Seattle, you've got...
Gonna get hard.
It's essentially a couple of stories. You've got a man who's grieving the loss of his wife, who moves to Seattle with his young son. And his young son recognizes how lonely his dad is and decides to ring a radio station and let the entire United States essentially know that his dad needs a new partner. And one woman who hears that... You what, sorry?
Essentially rings up, tells the country his dad ain't getting laid.
Yeah, that's tragic. And one woman who hears that is Meg Ryan's character, Annie Reid, who lives across the country, but is for some reason just captured by Tom Hanks' character Sam speaking on the radio to Dr. Martha Fieldstone, I think the character's called, the radio host, who we never actually see. And he explains to the radio host why he loves his wife, what she meant to him. And for some reason, that's enough for Annie Reid to be like, you know what, fuck it, let's just go. And the entire movie is just essentially her just being kind of obsessed with Tom Hanks' character and just like...
Wait, before we get into our opinions, let's describe it a bit nicer.
Well, what better word is there? Because
she becomes enamored.
Enamored, okay. Or enchanted.
Enchanted. With
the thought of just meeting him. And she believes destiny means they should be together. Like, she's destined to be with him, despite the fact she's engaged, but that's neither here nor there. And then she tries to meet him. She reaches out, and eventually they do obviously meet. As all rom-coms go, there's a nice happy ending for the two of them, and they meet right at the end. It's an interesting one because it's one of the rare rom-coms where there's not really any interaction between the characters until the end. Like, they're kept apart throughout the entire thing, apart from like the little moment in the airport or near the beach when she's across the road. But the real first conversation is right at the end of the movie, which is not something you usually see in like rom-coms.
Just remind me to talk about what I want to talk about in the closing category, because I've got so many opinions.
I will. We'll get there. And then in You've Got Mail, it's much more of a typical like enemies to lovers stereotype, where it's two people who have been conversing through emails with each other, and they've kind of really gotten to know each other without knowing each other essentially, but they've kind of grown this connection through emails. And when they actually meet in person, after a brief like event, when they meet originally, they get on quite well, but then obviously with both working for very different companies in the same field, there's a clash of personalities and they eventually hate each other. But it all comes full circle, and
Fall in love.
love wins out. um,
Even though he is responsible for making a close a family
we'll
bookstore,
get there. We'll fucking get
break a
there.
car. Oh,
Yeah, we'll get there. I'll go first then, and just straight up say for story, I went 10-9 in favor of You've Got Mail. Because I think I prefer them having those interactions. Like I think what separates these two is we get to see them and the chemistry on screen throughout the movie, and we get to see them go from strangers to really hitting it off and then antagonizing each other to the point of like sheer hatred before it all comes back around. And you get the interesting stuff for like the bookstores and stuff, because I'm a sucker for like I love reading and stuff like that. So like, well, as a kid, books like owning a bookstore was one of the things I wanted to do more than anything. Like seeing the shop around the corner, which also complete sidetrack already, because the movie's a remake of a film from the 40s, which I actually mentioned on I think the best movies we watched in 2023 for the first time. It's a Christmas movie from the 40s starring my favorite actor James Stewart, who essentially plays the Tom Hanks role. And that film's called The Shop Around the Corner. So when I watched this and the shop was actually called that, I was like, that's a nice little nugget. And I think maybe the fact it's based on that one, which I love so much already, really helps the story for me as well. It felt more familiar. And Sleepless in Seattle, I mean, it's just a bit dodgy. Like,
yeah.
there's a lot going on there, and I'm not sure we should be happy with what we're seeing. And I just think because it's more stereotypical, You've Got Mail with the tropes that they use and the way the characters interact. I'm a sucker for cliches, and I think it just works better for me. So I went 10-9 in favor of that.
I agree. 10-9 in favor of You Got Mail. Sleepless in Seattle. Just very. There's so much about it that just rubbed me up the wrong way. So much about it. Where do I begin? It's one of them films, and me and Grace watched one a while over Christmas called, I think it's called Good Grief or Grief or something like that. Something with Dan Levy.
That's the new one, right?
Yeah, Dan Levy's latest film. And it's the same kind of thing that really aggravates me in films, where his wife dies and it's been like a couple of months and they're like, you need to get back out there. I'm like, it's been fucking 6 months, pal. Like, let the man grieve. Like, he doesn't need to go out jumping bones. He needs to like grieve the love of it, like the loss of the love of his life. Like, let the man grieve. And then obviously there's the sun ringing up, which yeah, kind of cute. But then like everybody in America becomes enamored with a guy who's grieving over his dead wife, and everybody's all of a sudden like, yeah, I want to fuck him. It's like, what? You've just listened to on the radio how he feels like he can never replace his what? I'm going on a rant. He can never replace his wife, and everybody was all of a sudden like, I can fix him, kind of thing. And then, Meg Ryan, who is engaged, who our introduction to her is her engagement, Annie in Sleepless in Seattle. Her introduction to her is an engagement, and then she spends the rest of the film, as she does in You Got Mail, to be fair, actively trying to cheat in her relationship. Like, she actively, like, there's a point where Bill Pullman's character, Walter, finds her in the cupboard, like on the phone as she's listening to this guy that she's like about this guy that she's obsessed with, and he's just like, oh, whatever. She very good at lying and fobbing him off. Weren't a fan. And then after all that, she starts fucking stalking him and like becomes properly obsessed and stalking him. So no, I did not like Sleepless in Seattle. Whereas in You've Got Mail, like at least there was a bit of charm. Like, you've got the enemies to lovers. You've got I like the Joe Fox meeting her, and like it was like he wasn't trying to shut a store down or scope it out like she thinks and everything. It was a genuine like meet cute. And obviously the film escalates from there. And I like the dual lives of the Yahooing each other, Yahoo Mail was it, or AOL? AOL, yeah. And then them not knowing who each other are until Tom Hanks obviously finds out who she is. But then Tom Hanks then becomes the manipulator in this film. So I watched him and I said it to Grace, and she was like, I've never looked at it that way. And I think she's upset because I've put a point on that can ruin the films, as I usually do when I watch her films. But it's like, in Sleepless in Seattle, Meg Ryan knows Tom Hanks, but Tom Hanks doesn't know Meg Ryan. But Meg Ryan becomes like a stalker to Tom Hanks until she finally gets what she wants. And then in You've Got Mail, Tom Hanks finds out it's Meg Ryan's character on the other side of the computer and manipulates that whole situation, manipulates her into a situation where she eventually falls in love with him at the end. So it's just like the roles are reversed, and both of them are very fucking toxic. But whatever, the story for You've Got Mail is a lot better, I think, especially with those two characters. I just don't agree with their methods.
Yeah, I think
in You've Got Mail, both Tom Hanks and we'll talk about it in the opening. I'll talk about it in the opening, but Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan's character are openly, actively trying to cheat or cheat. Yeah. No, in this case, essentially cheating.
Yeah, and I think it's a moment in Sleepless in Seattle when she travels to Seattle and just watches from a distance. Could you imagine making that film now? Like, I don't think people would respond to it the same way because that's creepy.
It'd be an A24 movie.
Yeah. Or if it was the roles reversed. Like, could you imagine if the person obsessed was Tom Hanks and he just traveled to her town and watched her from a distance? That shit's bonkers. Like, it's not good, but we'll get to that soon. So, yeah, we both agree there then because, like I said, I just think the cliche riddled version is just much more enjoyable.
To not play devils, I guess what the intention and what the perspective that I didn't see, and I'm guessing you didn't see, is that it's all about is the person like not settling for the person, not settling for not like in both films they talk about like it being magic and it being destiny and whatever. And I get the probably the romantic part of it is that they are meant for each other because they are so perfect for each other, and they feel this that they don't feel with Bill Pullman or Craig Kinnear,
or Parker Posey.
I mean,
Tom Hanks is a fucking fool, first of all.
He's an absolute moron, but whatever. And I'm guessing the message is supposed to be like, find your true love, no matter the cost. But I don't know if it's a male perspective or if it's because the film's aged, or well, probably not a male perspective, but what's the word? A negative perspective is that you're just basically promoting, if you're not happy, just go fucking find somebody else or cheat rather than try and deal with your problems. But whatever.
Yeah, I think especially in Sleepless in Seattle, like having that sort of like affection and interest in someone you've never actually met just seems a little weird when you're engaged. At least in You've Got Mail, they've been conversing and it's been strictly about interesting subjects. There's never really been any messages up until that point which hints at romance. It's just been talking about like she says, like books and stuff like that. And that's how they really got to know each other. Whereas in Sleepless in Seattle, from minute one, Annie's like, I could be destined to be with this guy. And it's like, you've never fucking laid eyes on him. Like,
yeah,
you don't know.
Well, she does know what she looks like because she gets a fucking private investigator to fucking sneak and find out who like, it's fucking crazy person behavior.
Yeah, she would definitely taking advantage of her job as well, like going on like certain databases and stuff to find them.
Yeah, you could definitely remake Sleepless in Seattle as a thriller, like stalker movie.
Well, apparently there's actually like a YouTube cut of it where it is like a horror movie where she's stalking him to kill him. Yeah. Like someone's edited together and that's what it ends up out.
I'm gonna watch it and log it on Letterboxd.
I know, yeah. We'll move on then to the opening because like we've got plenty to say about this, so we might as well spread our opinions out throughout the category instead of giving them all away at once.
Right, so
in terms of the openings then, Sleepless in Seattle is a very, I wouldn't say a dark one, but it's quite somber where it opens with the funeral of Sam's wife. And then it quickly shows him getting all these offers and how angry he is when he's like slamming on everything he gets. And he decides to move his son to Seattle. And that quickly transitions into meeting Annie, who's obviously at that dinner where she announces her engagement to Walter in front of her family. And they kind of seem happy. I mean, it's highlighted quite quickly that the guy's a bit of a fucking like weirdo. Like he's allergic to all these different things.
Cal, don't. I've got opinions on this as well. Don't, because
but yeah, so you see them these very separate and different lives, and you see where both are in their lives at that point. And you compare that to You've Got Mail, which is quite the opposite, because you've got that, first of all, you've got that really interesting random cartoon graphic that opens it up like around New York City and stuff. And then you open with both Meg Ryan's character Kathleen and Tom Hanks' character Joe, like in their homes with their partners, and it shows them both like
waiting for them
respectively wait for the partners to leave so they can sneak onto the computers to talk to each other. But I think the interesting bit after that is where we see them both go to work, and you see how close their lives are linked together, and just how close they are to actually meeting without ever meeting. Like you see, like one walking to work, or just turns the corner as the other comes around, or he's just a few yards behind, and it shows just how easy it would have been for them to meet in person before everything that happened. So while Sleepless in Seattle shows how different their lives are, and it also highlights how far apart they are, You've Got Mail does quite the opposite and shows you just how close these two are situated and why it makes sense that they will eventually meet. So how did you score that?
Well, I'm not going to talk about how I feel about Bill Pullman just yet, because we've got a category that I want to specifically save it for there. But You've Got Mail's opening is just, again, it's the film starts with we're cheating. Like I'm in a relationship, you're in a relationship, but we're gonna, every time she literally watches out the window to make sure he's definitely gone before she can go cutesy up, flirt with this guy online, and he does the exact same thing. And like trying to make out Parker Posey is annoying, and I'm like, she's charming as fuck. And the same with Greg Kinnear, like, no, that's charming, but like they're rushing off, so they're immediately trying to make their partners look bad so that this is kind of acceptable. So You've Got Mail's not getting the fucking 10 this time. He's going to get a 9. Sleepless in Seattle is going to get a 10. I do prefer the opening to Sleepless in Seattle. It's got, because it doesn't immediately go into the problems. I like the juxtaposition of like Sam's life being down and sad, and obviously his wife's just died and he's going through it, and like that's like you say, that scene where somebody offers him his shrink and he pulls them all out, and it's, you know, it's people are trying to help him but he can't be helped. It's the line of like he just wants to go, like he needs to change the scenery because he'd like to not walk a corner and not be reminded of her, something like that, paraphrasing obviously. So that really sets up why he has the big change and why he needs the big change, and it's a lot, shows a lot more of his character, whereas Annie obviously really happy, like obviously living the suburban life, well, not suburban life, but that kind of white picket fence life, and it's supposed to be all nice. She's got the family, she's got the kind of the really dorky fiance, but like still quite charming and still quite nice, and they've got the big, and they're talking about, I mean, I don't understand, do people's fiancés or partners not meet entire families before they get engaged in the 90s? I like, they literally announced they're engaged, they've only just met this guy, and next minute she's leaving him to go upstairs into the attic and fucking try on a wedding dress. But whatever, it's just completely showing the completely different lives they both have. But I gave it the 10 because I really but I really liked how they showed Sam as not just like a sad sack who, it's like, it's not his wife's died and immediately is looking for what the next thing is. He's showing his pain, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I actually agree. I went 10-9 in favour of Sleepless in Seattle as well, because like you said, the stuff where they're watching the partners leave and they're making sure they're truly gone before they talk to each other, just the sneaking around seconds into the movie, just it doesn't really paint a good picture of the characters like right off the bat. I did like the stuff, like I said, where we see them going to work and just how close they could possibly meet, like with one walking you see the other in the background. I like that stuff. But you touched on there, like with how different Sam and Annie's lives are. And I love the interaction between Walter and her family, and when he tries to be funny, and just the deadpan looks on everyone's face as they don't get his sense of humor apart from Annie. And Sam's grieving. And I think it's interesting because from the beginning, we see where the stages they're at, where Sam is probably feeling as low as he ever has after losing his wife, whereas Annie's now just got engaged and she should theoretically be the happiest she's ever been. But throughout the movie, once Sam moves to Seattle, he's the one content with life. She's seeking change, despite the fact she should be the happy one. Like, he's happy in his circumstance. I mean, his son doesn't think so, so he reaches out to the radio station. But where he is, he's not the one seeking out change, where she's essentially desperate.
Yeah. It's almost like well, it's as soon as they walk out the house and he says, like, somebody says Walter's such a traditional name, and that's supposed to be enough to be like, oh, yeah. His name's Walter. No wonder she's going to stop loving him eventually.
Like, I'm sorry, like, what the fuck's Annie, first of all? Like, that's not some modern fucking hip name. So you can fucking miss me with that bollocks.
But yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah, so we agree on that. I think while I think the You've Got Mail story ultimately I prefer, I just think the opening it paints a bad image on the characters immediately. But yeah, I think I still think that bit where they interact, like showing the routes to work and how close their lives are linked, is quite interesting. But we'll move on to the end then, because we've talked about the entire story, we talked about the open and the end, which is probably in most rom-coms the most important bit, because that's where, if it's gone to plan, that's where the two main characters eventually get together. Usually they've been bickering or they've been together and split up, and then by the end they come back and profess their undying love for each other. So in Sleepless in Seattle, you've got quite a strange ending, really, because we don't even get to see when because that's when they finally meet. Like I said earlier, the entire film keeps them apart, like pretty much, apart from those very brief moments where they see each other, but they pretty much kept apart for the entire film until the very end, when Sam's son Jonah, who is 8 years old by the way, gets a flight to New York.
Pre 9/11. Pre 9/11.
Yeah, as you can tell as well. He gets a flight to New York after sending Annie a letter pretending to be his dad, arranging to meet her at the top of the Empire State Building on Valentine's Day. So
that TV show Catfish, she wouldn't last on that.
No, absolutely not. So Jonah goes, and when Sam finds out, he flies after him, and he eventually finds him at the top of the Empire State Building, where Jonah's been sat all day like a silly bastard. And then they go to leave, and it's like, just as they leave, Annie gets there and she goes up to the top, and you feel like they've just missed each other, and then she realizes Jonah's bag's there, and then Sam and Jonah come back and they eventually meet, and Sam realizes it's the woman he's seen a couple of times earlier in the movie. And despite not really, you what, sorry?
Twice?
Yeah, twice, in the airport and at the beach. And then they don't really say anything. It's just like, we're going, shall we? And he takes her around, and that's it. There's no real conversation. And you compare that to You've Got Mail, where about halfway through, Tom Hanks' character finds out that the person he's been mailing is Kathleen Kelly, who obviously Meg Ryan plays, and he keeps it to himself for the most part. And it's interesting because despite the bickering and them having these secret lives on email, they eventually start to get on in person, and
very quickly.
Yeah, it does. It turns around very quickly, considering he put her out of fucking business.
Closed down her family shop that her dead mum ran and had a lot of love for, and she essentially grew up in. But he bought some daisies because he knew that was her favourite flower, because he knew that from being online, because he's a fucking manipulator. But whatever.
Yeah. You said it. But yeah, so eventually kind of comes clean, where he gives this big speech and she kind of shoots him down because she wants to meet the person she's been emailing. And then when he reveals it's him, she says, "Oh, I was hoping it was you." And they have their like nice little romantic bit. So they've both got I don't think either are very traditional rom-com endings, but I went 10-9 in favor of Sleepless in Seattle here. For one reason, really. If I was in Tom Hanks' shoes and I realized this woman who'd kind of been stalking me looked like Meg Ryan, Let bygones be bygones is all I'm saying. I don't mind. But if someone puts my family out of business and then I find out they've been lying to me and they look like Tom Hanks, nah, pal, it ain't worth it. I just don't like that difference doesn't make sense to me. Like she can get away with being a bit nuts because she's Meg fucking Ryan and she is one of the finest looking women on the planet, especially during the night.
About everybody in every episode we've ever done.
Yeah, true. And not even just women. I talk about Josh Hartnett like that as well.
That's very true. That's very true.
Great to if she's all that and talk about Freddie Prinze Jr. Fucking hell, that's coming. I've lost my track. Oh yeah, and I just think yeah, just daydreaming about Freddie Prinze Jr. now. But just like the ending as well, like we said, it's just so far fetched that she'd be willing to forgive this guy who shut down her shop that she was. Like it was a family shop that her mum, who's like you said, passed away, had like owned, and then she passed it to her daughter, and now it's been shut down because this guy worked for this big company. Like, who is even willing? That doesn't make sense. Why would you end up in a relationship with someone like that? At least with Annie, Tom Hanks in Sleepless in Seattle, he might not put two and two together because he might be a bit slow. Like, there's no
definitely
guarantee that he sees her in, like he remembers seeing her in the airport and thinks she was there for me. He might think that about the beach bit because she was just stood at the opposite road gaping at him, but I don't know. I just think having the set on the top of the Empire States Building, it was better. I mean, it was weird that they didn't speak much, but they finally come together after being a part of the whole film.
You know what's weird?
What's that?
They didn't do it in the Space Needle in Seattle.
Yeah. It's because the kid wrote it. He was a fucking idiot. Jonah sent the letter. That little bum thought he was doing some business, but I just think the ending to You've Got Mail is just ridiculous. Like, you would never forgive someone who'd done that, and you wouldn't enter a relationship with them. So, yeah, I went 10-9 in favour of Sleepless in Seattle in that category.
Right. Here we go. Right. Ending Sleepless in Seattle. So she's fucking sat there, and we're going to get this into the best Meg Ryan category, but she's fucking sat there with her fiance, tells him she don't want to be with him anymore, and then looks over and be like, he could be there. I'm just going to fucking leave you after you've just spent all this money on food to go and find somebody who I've just told you I'm leaving you for, who doesn't even know who I am. Oh, God. Oh,
she took a chance.
What? Don't go.
Took a chance on love.
Don't romanticize it. Anyway, she goes up there, obviously not there. And the way she looks at him at the end of Sleepless in Seattle is fucking stalkery. It's a crazy person.
But she's Meg Ryan, isn't she? So.
I'll tell you, I've watched 2 films with Meg Ryan, and I'm not a fan. I'm not going to lie. And she fucking just stares, like, she doesn't really talk. She just stares at him the entire time. Like, they hardly talk. They just grab their hands. And what's the conversation after they get in the lift? Didn't I see you at the airport? Yeah, I was trying to find you. What? Didn't I see
you at the beach? Yeah, I'll try to find you.
Yeah, I was literally stalking you. Well, how do you know what I look like? Well, because I hired a private investigator. All right. What?
And I looked you up on a database. That's how I know where you lived.
Yeah, I was engaged. When? Well, today. And I ended it today. Why? Because you might have been here. What? Just fucking...
Not a relationship built to last, is it?
And no, it's not. And like, what I need is the Sleepless in Seattle sequel, where it's however many years later and they fucking hate each other. They didn't even last 2 weeks. But I just couldn't. And You've Got Mail. Like, what can I fucking say? He manipulates her the entire time until she fucking loves him, which happens very quickly over. But again, he's done it. She falls in love with him because he knows all the little things about her that she's divulged over mail to this guy that she actually likes, and he's used that to his advantage. And then I was hoping it was you. No, your real reaction would be, hold on a fucking second. It's been you this entire time. Why don't you just fucking tell me? Like, why didn't you tell her? Like, he had that moment in the when she was sick, and she said, "Daisy's my favorite," and he went, "I know you told me." She didn't acknowledge it. You'd say then, "I need to talk to you about something." I came around to talk to you about something. Oh, I just fucking can't, Cal. So I'm not gonna lie to you. Nobody's getting a 10. It's gonna be a 9-9. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I can't see the romanticization of it. I don't think that's a word. I can't see the romantic in it at all. It just
In either.
screams manipulation in You've Got Mail and screams stalker in Sleepless in Seattle.
That's true, but that's why I said one of them is Tom Hanks and one of them is Meg Ryan. So
you make a very good point. If Tom Hanks is like as he's shouting after the dog, and you hear that fucking squeaky, nasally voice, you're not thinking, "Oh, here comes the love of my life." You're thinking, "Here comes fucking Woody," and not the good kind. Like it's, oh god.
yeah, that's how I separate it. I think both characters are pretty fucking shitty at the end, but one of them is objectively very hot. So,
Ain't Tom. There's the whole. I'm not trying to body shame anybody, but there's a whole scene in the whole end scene of You've Got Mail where Tom Hanks is talking to Meg Ryan at the garden, and he's stood like, and it's three lines, three massive fucking lines across his neck. Like, what is going on there? Like, they're not even double chins; they're just creases in his neck. It was so distracting to look at.
yeah, and do you know what's wild to think? I think
that anybody falls in Tom Hanks for his looks.
So this movie is the movie he did before this one was Saving Private Ryan.
Man, okay, no, that is crazy.
So he went from Saving Private Ryan to this. Like, they couldn't be more different. And also in Saving Private Ryan, you expect he had to be in like peak physical condition. And then he just doesn't look that way in this. But it's Tom Hanks. I love him. Well, I mean, we'll talk about him next because the next category is
Saving
best
Meg
version.
Privates.
You are?
Saving Meg Ryan's privates is what he was trying to do in this one.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll move on then to the best Tom Hanks because we were just talking about him anyway. So obviously the male lead in both movies is played by Big Tom. You've got Sam Baldwin in Sleepless in Seattle, the grieving widow who has moved. He's a single dad now. He moves with his son and becomes the object of affection for about 90% of women in America, apparently, after his son calls the radio station and he's forced to talk about what made his late wife so special. And his character in You've Got Mail couldn't be more different because he plays Joe Fox, the son of like the head of this big book. It's like a bookstore company, like a multi-million dollar company, and he's like this real successful businessman who he's real cutthroat. He takes no prisoners, and he gets the job done regardless. So his characters are very, very different. So how did you score that?
Oh, was it me?
Yeah, you're next.
Great. I went 10-9 in favour of Sam. Joe Fox is charming and whatever, yeah, and he's got that. He is a little bit more funny. Obviously, you kind of need to be with Sam's, character. I just think Sam's a lot more to resonate with. Like he didn't play it. He didn't play it as silly as he does in Sleepless. Like there's that scene in Sleepless in Seattle. You've Got Mail where Dave Chappelle looks in the restaurant and he's like, or if she looks like Kathleen Kennedy, you're good, then you're going to be whatever. And it turns out he tells her it is Kathleen Kennedy, and he does that thing.
Kathleen Kelly.
Kathleen, I thought it was Kennedy.
No, Kathleen. Isn't that woman that works with Star Wars?
It is, yeah.
It's Kathleen Kelly.
Kathleen Kelly, yeah. And he goes like full animated Woody on the fucking fencing where he's like, and I just hate that kind of stuff. But I get it. But yeah, Sam, I like the way he played him. Like when he finally started dating again, he wasn't doing it like he didn't play it as this is what I need. It's just kind of like it's a thing that's happening to me. All the way up until the end, he was actually consistent throughout the film. Meg Ryan's my issue with that film, but all the way throughout the film is like there's that scene where he's laying on the sofa and he either dreams or imagines that his wife's there, and he just plays it like really, really like quite. I say this for a lot of performances recently, but he plays it really, really quietly and doesn't overact, which I really liked. I just think as a whole, Sam's character is just a lot more interesting to watch, whereas Joe is fun to watch, but also aggravated me a lot more, especially near the end, like I say, when he realizes who she is and he realizes that he can use it to his advantage and manipulate, and he just use that manipulation to benefit himself. To try to, again, the romanticized version is he's trying to fix his mistakes and he's trying to build himself up to it. But again, I just see it as manipulation. So, so 10-9 in favor of Sam Bolden.
Yeah, I went 10-9 in favor of Sam as well, because I think one of the most important things for these sorts of movies is you're supposed to root for the characters. You're supposed to want them to be happy. And Sam is someone that's very, very easy to root for. Like, he's obviously gone through so much already. And we see that, and we see how he's dealing with it all. We see how close his relationship is with his son. And we just see he's just a genuinely good person. Whereas the stuff with Joe is just a bit of an ass, especially throughout, like, the way he works in his business and how he handles that, and the way he views the competition. Like, he is a bit of an ass. There are moments where he is quite charming, like you said. Like, I think the first meeting with Kathleen in her bookstore, when he says, "I'm just call me Joe," and they have that brief interaction there, and you can see the chemistry immediately. Like, there, I think he's quite charming. Or in the shop when she's not got cash and he comes over and he saves the day, and he sweet talks the cashier into letting her use a card, which I think is really funny. How he says the most basic shit and it wins her over, and then when Kathleen's so over apologetic, "I'm really sorry," the woman's face just drops when she looks at her. It's so funny.
He's not charming in the slightest. He just keeps repeating that she's got a nice name, and she's like, "Oh yeah, okay, whatever."
Yeah, and he tells that really poor not joke.
Yeah,
there are moments where I think he is quite charming, and I do like that. And I mean, Tom Hanks is never bad. Like, he always puts in a good performance. But I think, like I said, Joe's just much more sympathetic, and he's someone that you want to see succeed and be happy. And the stuff when he's talking to his friends, where he asks if he's got a cute butt and stuff, it's just really funny. And he's probably there's four main characters in these two movies. There's him and Meg Ryan in one, and him and Meg Ryan in the other. And there's only one good one in both, and this guy is probably definitely the best in either. He's got morals, and the way he panics when his son goes and he flies to New York to find him and stuff. He just seems like a good bloke, whereas Joe Fox seems like a bit of a douche. So yeah, that was an easy one.
Yeah, agreed. Also, I will say one thing about Sam. Nobody's going to fall in love with somebody with that haircut. What the fuck is going on with his hair?
I know, yeah, his hair is pretty wild. But I suppose, what is it, 92, 93? Different times back then. I wasn't even alive back then.
All right.
You were about 15, weren't you?
Yeah, fucked.
Well, let's talk about it then. Let's talk about Meg Ryan.
Do we have to?
You've got Fatal Attraction wannabe Annie in Sleepless in Seattle. The woman who is engaged and takes a liking to Tom Hanks' character after hearing him on the radio, and essentially just kind of stalks him for an hour and a half. And you compare that with her character in You've Got Mail, Kathleen Kelly, who runs this little bookstore, is also in a relationship, but is secretly emailing someone she's never met. And she's just dealing with, the majority of it is she's dealing with those mixed feelings, as well as trying to fight off this big company while going to war with Joe Fox, which leads to some really funny scenes where they're verbal back and forths. So I'll go first this time then and say straight off the bat, 10-8 in favour of You've Got Mail. I 10-8'd it because fucking Annie is hot but terrifying. That woman is fucking nuts. It's absolutely outrageous. I don't know what the fuck she's thinking. Even in the scenes where she's talking about writing this letter to Sam, but then she's someone mentions Walter and she's like, "Oh, I'd love to marry Walter." Well, what the fuck are you doing then? I don't understand. She just doesn't seem all there. She seems a bit fucking loopy in the head. Flying all the way to Seattle to watch him with his son. It's just next level creepy. Hiring a private investigator, that should be fucking criminal. This motherfucker should go to jail for what she's been doing. And just the way she treats Walter.
Can I just say, flying out on the fucking company she works for's money. Like, yeah. She manipulated a story so that she could go out and get all of her stalker behavior paid for.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
That is the dream. If I could, I would. But
who would you stalk?
Oh God, not Tom Hanks.
No, fuck no.
At the moment, Dua Lipa.
Mm.
She's on the radar at the moment.
But yeah, it's like, aside from the scene when she's first in the car and she first hears it and she's like interacting with it, that's quite a charming scene, I think. Like when she's like responding to what he's saying on the radio, I think that's quite well done. But other than that, she's just a bit fucking crazy.
Look at it through the lens as if she thinks she's talking to him.
Yeah, she probably does. Yeah. Like, why is he ignoring me?
And whenever they say the words at the same time, she probably thinks there's an instant connection. There's people that are delusional like that.
And then in You've Got Mail, obviously, I think Kathleen, I actually think she's a really good character, and I like that she owns this small business. She's an independent like bookstore owner. Who is like interactions with her, like everyone she works with are great. The way she verbally spars with Joe Fox, especially later in the movie when without knowing it's him that's given her the support and the advice to stick up for herself. The way she responds later on and really goes at it, like when he first shows up to the cafe when she's waiting for her email lover, and he shows up and she's just giving him shit. Like I like that she stands up for herself and she responds and she doesn't let people walk all over her like that. She is a bit of a dickhead, obviously, because she's definitely emailing someone behind her partner and being really secretive about it. But I think we'll get to in a very, very short moment. I think her actions in Sleepless in Seattle, especially towards Walter, just feel a little worse than what she does in this one. Although talking strictly of Meg Ryan, I think you mentioned Tom Hanks' hair then. I think Meg Ryan's hair in Sleepless in Seattle is much better than this. I don't know what the fuck's going on in this. That is like a Karen before a Karen. Like it's a weird do.
It's a full 90s, middle-aged 90s woman haircut.
Not for me. Do you know what's interesting? Because I don't even think it looks like the same woman.
No,
maybe that's just me.
It looks like a crazy person in both films.
I don't think she looks crazy in You've Got Mail. I think she's quite sane in that. Apart from the fact she gets him at the end when he ruins her life.
Let me tell you my scores and I'll tell you why she's crazy in both.
No, we're not going to get another 9-9 away. Anyway, yeah, 10-8, so you can go ahead now.
Would I give her a 9-9? No, I'm going to give her a 9-8 in favour of You've Got Mail because she is fucking the worst. I wanted to give her 8-8, but in You've Got Mail, she's a little bit better because she's got the story about the shop with her mum and like there's a lot of like she's very like good with her friends and she is very a little bit more charming in You've Got Mail when she's in the shop. Outside of that, fucking nuts. Like, in fact, no, I take it back. Even when she's when he says you should go to the mattress and whatever, yeah, and he says you need to start fighting. She was fucking standing in the shop whilst it's busy, whilst work needs to be done, fucking karate chop in the air. Like, that's not charming. That's fucking annoying. And me, I just think if I had an employee that were doing that, I'd want to fucking smack them. I want to smack them in the back of the head. If they're fucking karate chopping while it's busy, I'm like, what the fuck? Meg Ryan, what the fuck? What is her name? Kathleen. What the fuck you do? I don't care if you're in the shop. Stop karate chopping the air.
Yeah, but you seem to forget she doesn't have a boss. She is the boss. And this should be like people reacting to you, which you probably do.
I mean, I did pull out a lightsaber in a team meeting once and start swinging it about. But whatever, that was fun for me. But she was a lot more charming. But again, I couldn't get on like everything that Greg Kinnear, Frank was doing. Like she was making out as if it was bad or that it was something that wasn't worth putting up with or something like that, and it wasn't everything. And clearly, she just wanted this person online, and I can't give tens to people who go online and purposely chat up and flirt whilst their partner's literally only just left the house. Yeah, and then oh god, yeah, Annie's just a fucking crazy bitch. She is crazy, and sorry for the derogatory term calling somebody a crazy bitch, but she is. Like Walter, everything Walter does is supposed to be like she reacts as if it's the worst fucking thing in the world. Guy's just got allergies, and we'll talk about it when we get to that round. But Guy's just got allergies. Stop acting like it's the worst thing in the fucking world. You know what I mean? Like, and she is crazy. Like we've covered it plenty of times. She used the company's money to fucking go stalk somebody. She went out. She left her recently dropped fiance to go and find Tom Hanks at the top of the fucking Empire State Building. Like everything about her is like, and the thing that stayed with me, it's kind of like the ending to Midsummer, or what a lot of people say about like Smile and stuff. Like that ending, those ending shots have stuck with me in my nightmares. The way she stares at him, she's gonna kill him in that elevator. If he doesn't love her back, she's gonna fucking stab him in his sleep. That's a horror. Like that Sleepless, it's a horror movie. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. If there's a YouTube cut where it makes you look like a serial killer that's trying to kill him, then you've probably done some questionable things in the movie. Have you ever seen The Graduation with Dustin Hoffman?
No, I know the ending, but I don't
Yeah, so
know.
that's what the ending feels like. I wish we could have seen that where like because the end of that they like run away and they look really happy on the bus and then the smiles like slowly fade when they realize the gravity of what they've done and like is things gonna work out. I'd love to see that in the elevator when they go in all smiles and all of a sudden you see the colour drain from them like what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, and again, it's just all the kind of weird stuff that, and I get that she didn't originally send the letter, but as soon as she wrote it out, and as soon as she found out it had been sent out, she was all fucking up for it. Just crazy person behavior.
yeah,
I
well
can't give either of them a 10 because, and honestly, didn't find her that super charming in either film. I'm not going to lie. I do apologize, Meg Ryan fans, but like I say, I've seen two films with Meg Ryan now, and she's not on Kirsten Dunst's level of hate, but I did not enjoy her.
right, well we've got one more fucking lifeline to bring that round when we get to another film later this month, which she is also in. We've beat around the bush then in terms of the relationships that both characters in both sets of characters are in both films. Because in both there are periods where they are both in relationships whilst this whole weird relation like interaction infatuation stuff is going on. So we'll talk about the relationships now in both and essentially grade it on which couple deserve to be cheated on the least. I'll let you go first then, because in Sleepless in Seattle, we see from the get-go that Annie's engaged to Walter. We see that he's a bit of a nerd, but he's quite harmless. He's a very nice man. He never treats her badly. He never does anything wrong. He's just, like I said, he's just not cool, essentially. He's just a bit of a geek. Whereas Sam opens the movie as this grieving widow, but he eventually gets into the dating game and he briefly starts seeing this woman, Victoria, who is very out there and very kind of annoying, but I think it's
Only
played
in a
more
laugh.
for laughs.
Really like annoying in a laugh, and
Yeah. Although there's that moment where like she talks to Jonah, who is a bit of a shit to her. So I get it. When he walks in, she's like, maybe we should spend some time alone, like away from your son. I think that's probably supposed to be a moment where you're supposed to think, oh, she's not really that nice. But I I don't really see it that way. But yeah, her laugh is ridiculous. But she's quite a decent character. Like she makes an effort with his son. Um, she doesn't say anything wrong. She's very nice. Like she's just there. Whereas in You've Got Mail, they try to make out like Parker Posey's a bit of an ass. There's moments where she comes across really ditzy, and that's supposed to be a bad thing. Apparently, like you see the moment in the dinner party where she's talking to Frank and she kind of lets slip that she's not really as clued up as she thinks she is when she's like interacting with me about his book and his work and stuff. And Meg Ryan's Kathleen exchanges a look with Tom Hanks, and he's like almost embarrassed by what she's saying. Whereas Frank, I'm going to disagree with you when you say Frank did nothing wrong, because I think he is a bit of a shit. Because there's that bit when he's on the news and he's clearly fucking that woman, the reporter, and they are flirting like mad. And there's definitely something going on there.
Cal, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to tell you to be honest. Eleanor doesn't listen to this podcast, so I know that you can tell me honestly. I assume she doesn't, because I don't think. Oh no, Grace does. So maybe Eleanor does. If you went on TV and the host of a famous host of a TV was very flirting with you, you're telling me you wouldn't flirt back?
Not if I knew Eleanor was going to watch the report.
Yeah, and not if I knew we were going to get caught. Yeah, fucking.
Well, that's the thing though, because he knows she's going to watch it. He's sat there watching it with her, and he seems. It's not that he knows it's bad. He seems none the wiser. Like he doesn't seem to realize what he was doing.
There you go. So he wasn't. He wasn't giving her the fuck me out. He was just.
Come on, we know.
He was clueless until it wasn't until Meg Ryan pointed it out that he started getting a bit of a big head. As would you.
Nah, there were definitely some of that. And also, it was just a bit annoying. Kept talking about like the stuff with the typewriter. I mean, I don't know why I'm saying all this now because I've still got to give me score. But the stuff like the typewriters.
You first or me first, this one?
You are?
Is it you or me first?
You.
Right. First of all, you leave fucking Frank, Greg Kinnear alone. You can't tell me that talking about typewriters and buying two of the same typewriters is fucking annoying. You've got a load of film posters. I'm sure Eleanor's like, fucking other film poster. I can't say anything. Look at it all.
The typewriter thing is because he's against technology and stuff, and he's like, he's got one, so why has he bought another one? Like, well, he doesn't need two.
I'm for technology. Get rid of traditional swords, lightsabers only.
Exactly. So you're on the opposite side of him, so you should be against him as well.
It's just a collection, and this is my problem with the bad partners throughout both films, is that everything that's supposed to be bad about them is all perfectly reasonable stuff. And I get like not everybody, this story's like not everybody's the right match and blah blah blah. But the film actively tries to make you think that these people aren't worth Meg Ryan or Tom Hanks' attention when Parker Posey is fucking miles above Tom Hanks. He's punching. Yeah. And to trade that in for Meg Ryan, is he fucking mad? Like, she was in Scream 3.
Yeah, she was. Great character.
There was nothing wrong with Greg Kinnear. He was an accomplished man, intelligent man. Yes, he was against technology, but a lot of people were in the 90s. You know, he's got a healthy collection. He's got hobbies. He's got interests. Walter, yeah, he's a bit of a dork, but really lovely guy. And it's like, oh no, he's got allergies. Don't marry him. He's got allergies, kind of thing. And Victoria, the only thing about her was a laugh, but like, it's just a laugh. I just can't. But the person who got, I went 10-9 in favor of You Got Mail because why the fuck would you pass up Parker Posey for Meg Ryan? Absolutely not a chance. And I mean, Greg Kinnear is so much better looking than Tom Hanks as well. And the one thing that fucking annoys me most out of both things, and I didn't mention it in the Meg Ryan round, so I'm going to fucking mention it here. Another reason I hate Meg Ryan's characters, in both films, she essentially says to her fiance, in both films, they're engaged in both films, aren't they?
I don't think her and Frank are in You've Got Mail.
But they're still together. They've been together a long time. In both films, she sits them down, says, I'm not in love with you anymore. Let's end the engagement. Let's end this, blah, blah, blah. And both are like, yeah, it's fine. No worry. In fact, you know what? Go fucking be happy. Go find the person. Go find this person online. Go find this person. Like, she gets off so easy for both times. Oh, do you know what? Just tell me your score because I can't deal with her anymore. Yeah,
those, like, the way the relationships break down seems a little too convenient. Like, there's no real drama with it. I got in Sleepless in Seattle, at least Walter like kind of admits it's not what he wants and he still loves her and stuff. But I get the sense that Frank he wasn't that arsed either in You've Got Mail. I went 10-9 in favor of Sleepless in Seattle because while she's a bit of a dickhead to both of them, she ends both the relationships before anything physical happens. Whereas in Sleepless in Seattle. Is Tom Hanks not still with Victoria, who's just gone away? And he's just gone to meet this woman, and now they're holding hands and doing who knows what next to Jonah's fucking poor ass. Like, there's no moment where they break up. She just goes. I think he's supposed to be going away with her when he realizes Jonah's disappeared.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, so that poor woman.
I'll change my score 10-10. Plus,
10.
Victoria, like you said, took an interest in his kid. That's a widowed son as well. Like, he's lost his mum as well. She's making the effort. It's not easy. Like, I imagine. I have no experience with it, but it can't be easy. And she makes the effort. And, you know, Walter's just a nice guy.
Yeah, Walter never does anything wrong.
Other than he sleeps with a tissue. How fucking dare he?
Yeah, and he's fucking.
When I'm snotty, I put tissues up my nose and fall to sleep with tissue up my nose. And Grace hasn't left yet. Well, she could be sending letters to Tom Hanks. I don't know.
Maybe.
Probably.
On a serious note, though, if your missus left you for someone like Tom Hanks, then fucking hell, someone's got to be going wrong. But yeah, I think, like I said, I think Parker Posey's fucking awesome in You've Got Mail. That scene when Frank asks Joe Fox, how does he sleep at night? Quite like judgingly. And she just walks in at the right time and starts telling him about the sleeping pills she takes. I think it's fucking hilarious. And she's really charming. And I like her a lot. And I don't understand why you'd believe her for Meg Ryan in that movie. I think she just seems lovely. She's like a great time. But maybe Tom Hanks' character is a bit too old for at that point. Different sets periods of life, but she is quite lively and outgoing, and he seems a bit like a miserable bastard. But yeah, it's my answer. My score straight up comes down to what they did to fucking Victoria. She made such an effort with Jonah. She cooked food for him. She cooked potatoes like no one he's ever seen before, as he says. She tries, and she gets ditched so he can go get his son, and then he just gets with this woman while he's away. When he comes back, she's probably like, well, we were supposed to go away together. What the fuck? Like, Victoria got done dirty.
She did.
Which makes me think I should probably rethink my Sam being the good version of Joe Fox earlier. But too late for that. We'll move on then to the versions of the couples that we like the most. I can imagine you're going to hate both, but essentially the two characters and their love story, which one we prefer. You've got obviously the Sleepless in Seattle one, which isn't really anything concrete until the very end where they actually officially meet and interact, and it's a lot of a one-sided chase from Annie's character. And you compare that with You've Got Mail, where it's actually like the enemies to lovers stuff, and they hate each other in person but love each other through emails, and then eventually come to realize what's going on, and they have that sweet moment at the end. I can't remember whose go it is. I'll go.
I think it's your go.
Yeah. I'm just going to, no beating around the bush, I'm just going to say it's 10-9 in favour of You've Got Mail, just for the fact that we actually see the chemistry. We see them interact. It's not completely one-sided. It's not some weird fantasy about what could be. We actually see them talk to each other. We see the progression of the relationship from hitting it off well to becoming enemies, to becoming friends again, to eventually being together. All the while, they're also interacting through these emails. So I just think having those interactions and seeing the way they bounce off each other on screen, and like I said, the chemistry between them, I think there's many faults as there are in the stories. I think them two actually work really well together. So that was an easy one. 10-9 for You've Got Mail.
See, I went 10-8 for You've Got Mail. Purely for, there's no kind of relationship other than it is one-sided in Sleepless in Seattle. And there's like quite a few hints in Sleepless in Seattle that I feel like the moral of the story of Sleepless in Seattle is he wanted to move on. He didn't want to move on from his wife. He wanted to, just get back out there without forgetting her. But then there's like a couple of hints that Meg Ryan's character is just essentially the same personality and same kind of person as his wife was. Like, there's that line when Jonah's asking about it, like saying, I can hardly remember or whatever. And he says she can peel it. She used to cut an apple in one, like an entire apple in one long spiral or whatever. And of course, we saw Meg Ryan doing that earlier on in the film. And it's just like, so basically, Meg Ryan is just a replacement for his dead wife. I just can't imagine it working. Out of the
Yeah.
two, after the film ends, You've Got Mail is the one that I can imagine working a lot more, because obviously once you've gotten over so you fucking manipulated me into this relationship, fucking great. But I think once you get past that little bombshell, they did become friends, and no matter how quick it went, they did become friends. She did realize that she had feelings for him, and they did love each other in the end. So yeah, I went that, but neither of them are overly great in my eyes.
Yeah, I just think it's the it boils down to the fact that you can actually see a future between the Joe and Kathleen, whereas there's no way Sam and Annie work out. There's no fucking way. That doesn't last 2 weeks, like no chance. So yeah, we agree on that. That was fairly easy. We'll talk about now then the supporting cast.
Also, once Tom Hanks, like you said, goes back and has to tell Victoria that he's leaving her because he found a random woman at the top of the Empire State Building that he's only met twice because she stalked him and whatever. Yeah, like, oh, where was I going with this? Never mind. I completely lost my train of thought as I was fucking going. Oh yeah. At what point does Tom Hanks start thinking, hold on, is this going to happen again once you become obsessed with fucking somebody else? Like, you literally become obsessed with me because you heard me on the radio. You travel.
That'd be the first thing I did. I'd be like, we're banning radios at this house, let me tell you.
No radios, because I know what happened last time, pal.
Like, in your car, it's CDs or nothing, pal.
There'd just be no trust, would there?
No. Yeah, I think we'll move on then to the best supporting cast, because both movies have got. I mean, it's a staple in most rom-coms.
People that I like.
Yeah, but most rom-coms have got these like incredible like cast of supporting characters that really help like elevate the story. Because if it was just the main ones, it'd be a much more drab and boring. So yeah, they've both got some really good casts. Like in Sleepless in Seattle, you've got people like the kid Jonah, who was played by Ross Malinger. Who did you ever watch Recess on Disney?
Played TJ, didn't he?
Yeah, which I think is fucking cool. Yeah, you've got him as Jonah, who I think does a really good job. You've got Bill Pullman, obviously, as Walter. You've got Rob Reiner, who directed When Harry Met Sally. He's in this as Sam's best friend. You've got Tom Hanks' real life wife, Rita Wilson, playing his friend, and her husband is the guy from Titanic, Victor Garber. Who else have we got? You've got Rosie O'Donnell.
Yep.
Rosie O'Donnell as Annie's best friend, Becky, who
is from Frasier as well.
Yeah, her brother, who's from Frasier. And then you've got the woman that plays Victoria, whose name I actually didn't know until I looked it up, which is Barbara Garrick. And I think that entire cast is really good. And then you compare it to the You've Got Mail one, which is a little smaller, but there's also some decent names in that, like
including one that I'm going to give the whole film to because of him. But continue.
Yeah, you've got our boy, who I imagine I know who it is from that film there.
The Wonders.
Yeah, Steve Zahn.
The Wonders.
The Wonders. That thing you do. You've got Steve Zahn as George, who works in the bookshop for Kathleen. You've got Parker Posey as Joel's partner. You've got Greg Kinnear as Frank, Kathleen's partner. You've got Birdie, the older woman that works in the shop, who has some really fucking funny one-liners, played by Gene Stapleton. You've got Dave Chappelle as Kevin, someone that works with Joe. Trying to think of the names really well. I can't remember the names, but the guy that plays Tom Hanks' dad, he's really funny, and his wife, who eventually runs off with the nanny. There's some really like colourful, great characters in both. So how did you score that?
Well, I've literally just told you.
Oh yeah, you did.
And You've Got Mail. It's got Steve Zahn in it, and as per usual, Steve Zahn's fucking great. Even it's just his ear-headed one-liners, but all the cast was a lot better. Like, I'm not a huge Dave Chappelle fan, but he played it really well in this. Like, it was toned down, it wasn't over the top, but still funny. Parker Posey, obviously, we spoke a lot about her. Greg Kinnear, we spoke a lot about him. The actress who played Birdie, I don't think I know from anything else, but lots of little bits, funny bits and serious bits. Like when you find out that she was potentially in love with a famous dictator, or that bit where the woman's asking about the book signing, and the camera cuts to her like saying everything's fine, and you can just see a hand waving, and then a bit later where you see her walking past the bookshop, and you can see on her face like the writings on the walls, like she knows what's going to happen to the shop around the corner. Just like, I feel like everybody in that cast outside of Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks I liked, but Sleepless in Seattle also had a great supporting cast, like Rob Reiner. I really like Rob Reiner. He was really funny. Victor Garbo is like David Hyde Pierce. But again, a lot smaller roles. I don't feel like you got to spend as much time with him as would have been it would have been nice to. I can't remember the person who plays Maggie. I just wrote here Maggie dash dead wife. Like, I enjoyed her very brief performance. Pulled a lot into the film, but overall, like, you don't spend as much time with them, and they don't round out the film as much as the You've Got Mail cast does. Like, I feel like the film doesn't work. Oh, there's the shop worker whose name I can't remember in You've Got Mail as well, who works with George Birdie and
Kathleen. Christina, played by Heather Burns. I don't know why I forgot her because I wrote her down earlier.
All great, and that the feeling of that, like, Kathleen's struggles wouldn't work without them, and like the tea party afterwards, and like knowing that Steve Zahn's character went on to work at Fox Books and all that kind of stuff. And I just think without the supporting cast in You've Got Mail, it wouldn't have elevated that film to be the better film overall, in my eyes. Whereas in Sleepless in Seattle, it is really just about Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks. But Becky, Rosie O'Donnell's character, got a laugh out of me every time. I do love her. Though it did take me, I was like watching it for ages, and a couple of her scenes went by, a couple more scenes went by, and then she came up about halfway through the film. I was like, that's Betty Rubble.
Yeah. Yeah.
like the idiot that I am. Which now makes me want to watch Flintstones. So can we try and figure a way to do Flintstones? We could do Flintstones versus Scooby-Doo.
That's probably one that we should do at some point.
Yes.
Two classic cartoons in live action. Yeah, I actually agree. I went 10-9 in favour of You've Got Mail as well, because I think while the Sleepless in Seattle cast does have some great moments, like the running gag of Becky and how unhappy she is with her husband who we never get to meet, that shit kills me. And I think
at some point, and then be like some dead, like, chiseled, handsome.
That would have been funny. That would have been really good. I also love Rita Wilson when she comes in and she's explaining the plot of the Affair to Remember film, which is the Cary Grant one, which also was a win for me, just having Cary Grant play a large role in this somehow, like years after he died. Like, I thought that was fun. But that scene where she explains it and she does like the breakdown, and she does like the monologue where she just like starts crying. It's really funny, especially when like her partner, played by Victor Garber, and Sam like mock her with the Western shortly afterwards. I love Jonah. I think he was really good. His friend, the young girl, is really funny. Like, she's so bizarre. And I tell you what, this scene fucking killed me when I was watching it earlier. It's when Jonah goes to New York and they're questioning her, and her dad comes in and he says to her, because I wrote her name down. Her name is Jessica. He says, "Jessica, this is your father speaking." Like, no fucking shit. You stood in front of her. What do you fucking mean? Like, she's not blind.
That one got a bit of a chuckle out of me. It was almost as if to say, right, I know your mum's been asking questions, but she don't fucking matter. This is your dad now. Answer to your dad. Tell your
and
dad.
Also, when she says that Jonah's going to New York, and Sam's like, "Oh, he's getting a plane. What time?" And the dad just reads off the flight time. Like, what the fuck? Do you study flights? Like, what's going on?
He's just got loads of fucking clocks on the wall.
It's so weird. So that guy was just random as fuck, but he got a couple of laughs out of me in that very small scene.
If she was able to book a flight, did they not run like a flight, like a travel agency or something? That would make sense.
But even still, like, you run a cinema. If I ask you what time a certain film's on tomorrow, I can't imagine you just be like,
go on, try me.
I'm gonna check.
Go on, this will be fun.
I'm gonna do the ones that are like the one-off showings.
Yeah, okay, I can do it. If you're a podcast listener, we are still on.
Baghead.
Baghead, not a fucking clue.
Yeah, exactly. So it's weird that he could just lay him off a flight like that. That was bizarre. But yeah, the cast is funny. Across the board, Rob Reiner was really funny. The stuff with the tiramisu when Tom Hanks doesn't know what it is, he thinks it's like some sex act. That stuff was really funny. Their interactions, you felt like they were really friends.
Yeah,
but
I did feel like him and Rob Reiner were more friends than him and Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
But I was just like Dave Chappelle's character a little bit more.
I think the thing is as well, Rob Reiner only got like 2 scenes, whereas like we said, all the minor characters in You've Got Mail all had more to do. Steve Zahn's always fucking awesome. I love him. I loved it when they talked about the internet dating. He was like, no, because I can't even date in real life and stuff like that. Or we mentioned Birdie earlier.
Could be him.
Yeah, when we're talking about Birdie earlier, when she mentions she tried cybersex once and lost the connection or something. Oh, that was really good. That entire supporting cast, that guy that plays Tom Hanks' dad was brilliant. And the way he reacts when he finds out his wife has run off with a nanny, when he talks about all the times he ran off with a nanny, and now that's exactly what she's done, so funny. His dad, who reminisces about Kathleen Kelly's mum a couple of times, and he just repeats the same story because he forgot telling it earlier on.
That was great, yeah.
But yeah, I love that cast. I think from top to bottom, everyone that comes on gives a really good performance, and they're all memorable characters. Like we've already spoken about Parker Posey, who's just great. Like she's fucking awesome. I love her. Scream Free Supremacy, like she's fantastic. That's all I could think of as now, is that Gail Weathers actress. But yeah, I went 10-9 in favour of You've Got Mail as well for that reason. I just think the entire cast has more to do, and as a result, it helps elevate the movie. Not to say there wasn't good performances in Sleepless in Seattle, though, because there were some really good ones. But we'll move on then to the best soundtrack, because while sometimes we've done these and it's been like the scores, but these 2 movies have just got some really fucking good songs throughout, which I didn't realize going into both. But there were moments where I was like, oh shit, I know this one. Like, there's some really good songs. It's hard because subjectively, I prefer the You've Got Mail soundtrack. So I went 10-9 in favour of You've Got Mail because there was a lot more songs on that where I was like, oh, I really like this. Like Stevie Wonder popping up with Signed, Sealed, Delivered. Rockin' Robin coming on. I mean, it wasn't the Jackson 5 version, but that's still a great song. There's another one I really like.
The Cranberries, Dream.
Yeah, Cranberries. Also that Splish Splash. I really like that one. There was some really good, catchy songs, whereas the Sleepless in Seattle soundtrack, I only found this out when I looked into it before we recorded. That got to number 1 on the US charts, like just the official soundtrack when it came out on the album charts. That got to number 1, which is crazy. But that also got nominated for Best Original Song for the Harry Connick Jr. song, which name slips my mind now. Let me double check, because that was an original song.
I went 10-9 in favour of You Got Mail as well, because I couldn't remember any of the songs. I like the piano in Sleepless in Seattle was really nice. Like it was a lot of like, the soundtrack seemed to be like lounge music, like as if the story was being told in a bar, like a hotel bar somewhere. But it was really nice. But the reason, I mean, Signed, Sealed, Delivered alone, I fucking love that song. That's one of the best openings to a song ever. And the use of Cranberries Dream when they're, I'm pretty sure that's when they're walking to work and stuff, and you've got them talking over the top of it. But the one reason it tips it, well, not tips it because it was going to that anyway, is that Randy Newman's got a song on that soundtrack, and Randy Newman obviously did You've Got a Friend in Me for Toy Story, and he was Woody. Tom Hanks is Woody.
Yeah, that whole soundtrack was just fucking awesome.
Yeah, nice little songs.
I did like in Sleepless in Seattle, though. I'd never heard the song, but I recognised the voice immediately from his Christmas song. That's when Nat King Cole came in, because he's very synonymous with his Christmas song. His voice is so unique. So when he came through, I recognised that immediately. The Harry Connick Jr. song that they wrote specifically for the movie and got nominated for an Oscar was A Wink and a Smile, which played when they were on the beach, that was a really good song as well. I think they both just had really good soundtracks, but yeah, the You've Got Mail one just had some bangers that I was much more familiar with. And like you said, Stevie Wonder, Put him on every soundtrack if you ask me. I fucking love Stevie Wonder. I think he's such a talented singer and he's got some great songs. So I'll never dislike hearing him come into a movie. So yeah, that was another easy one for me. 10-9 in favour of that. And you said the same.
Easy peasy.
Yeah. We've got one last category then, and that is the legacy of the two movies, how they've been remembered, the way the movies hold up, and but also how we feel about them as well. That has to play a part. But this one's difficult because
neither of us care.
Yeah, and also like for me personally, I'll say it now. I think You've Got Mail's a better film.
Yep.
I think it's better. I prefer pretty much most of it, but in terms, if you ask, I think 100 people, I think 95 probably say Sleepless in Seattle, which is bizarre, but that's regarded as like like one of the best rom-coms, and it's a lot of people, because I listened to a couple of the Ringer podcasts earlier this week about both movies just in preparation, and they were saying unanimously in there that Sleepless in Seattle is regarded as the better film as well, and they pretty much agree. And I can't quite get my head around it, but that's where the legacy seems to be, and I think it got better reviews when it came out.
Let's have a look what modern people think. What those young kids think. I'm going to look on Letterboxd at what each have been scored, like the average score for both. Would you say carry on talking?
Yeah, that's fine. I was also going to check the Rotten Tomatoes score, but I can't see that.
Okay, we're just going to both be quiet for a sec.
No, so the Rotten Tomatoes score, because I already looked at You've Got Mail earlier. Sleepless in Seattle got 75% positive, and You've Got Mail got 70% positive. So it beat it in that as well.
You've Got Mail on Letterboxd averages at 3.5 stars, and Sleepless in Seattle averages at 3.4.
Oh, so that's closer.
Not when I read it. Sleepless in Seattle got a 2.5, and You've Got Mail got a 3. But I think you're right in that a lot more people. I mean, I rated it. I went 10-9 in favor of Sleepless in Seattle because, for some reason, unbeknownst to me, it is regarded as one of the classics, one of the all-time bests. I think if you was to do any kind of poll on best rom-coms of all time, Sleepless in Seattle will always be either in the top 3 or not, if not number 1. When we all know it should be Crazy Stupid Love.
No, I'll tell you what it's gonna be. Fucking When Harry Met Sally. Let me tell you that right now.
Can't wait for that episode because
you might like Meg Ryan in that.
I've seen that one scene.
Yeah. Any notes?
a few I made me. But yeah, I think like for some reason, Sleepless in Seattle is looked on a lot nicer, and a lot more fondly. And I think it obviously we talk about legacy and how much of an impact it's made. For Sleepless in Seattle to do so well that they went, yeah, we need another film with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, because the chemistry was unbelievable, even though they're hardly in the film. Like it obviously has some kind of legacy to make people want to see that and want to make that. And obviously, You've Got Mail. I think he's just as, I don't know, it's not just as popular. I think probably aged a lot better than Sleepless in Seattle has. But I don't think, like you say in that conversation, somebody's going to pick You've Got Mail over Sleepless in Seattle, which is madness because it is the better film, only in my eyes by 0.5 of a star. But it is a lot better film than, in fact, no, I don't ever do it. So I'm not going to start now. I was going to say I was going to go back and lower my score for Sleepless in Seattle, but I'm not going to do it unless I do a rewatch, which I still don't change scores for. So, but in fact, I think in terms of legacy, unfortunately, it's Sleepless in Seattle.
Yeah, I said the same. I went 10-9 in favour of that because the legacy has, for some reason, held up more for that, and it is remembered much more fondly for some reason. Do you think maybe that's because it was an original movie and it was quite unlike anything we'd seen from rom-coms before with the fact they were separated, whereas You've Got Mail was a remake of a very much beloved movie from the 40s with one of the greatest actors in the history of fucking cinema in James Stewart. Just get my James Stewart shout out in there. God bless him.
Maybe, I don't know.
Obviously, there's always been this disdain towards remakes. So maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to make excuses for why it's not remembered as fondly because it should be.
I think You've Got Mail is, finally at puberty. I think You've Got Mail is definitely more traditional rom-com with less risks. I think your big twist in You've Got Mail is the use of the internet and email, which was probably at the time very, very novel or revolutionary. I don't know. When did The Matrix come out? A year or two after, so it's fine. Because I'm comparing You've Got Mail to The Matrix.
Right. Similar films.
Very similar, to be honest. I can just see Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks' Trinity and Neo.
Tom Hanks would make it through the first fucking film, and Joe Fox was cutting about.
I'll take the blue pill. That was a terrible Tom Hanks impression.
That was.
That was. But yeah, I think Sleepless in Seattle does take more risks with its storytelling and whatever. I also think, I bet I'm willing to put money on more people have met on a blind date at the top of the Empire State Building than in some random garden in New York.
Yeah, probably. I wouldn't argue with that.
Like, meet me on the top of Empire State Building. I bet they're booked up, and like the guy at the who working at the Empire State Building, and he says, "What's the Affair to Remember? Is it?"
Yeah, the Cary Grant film. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, "An Affair to Remember." And she's like, "Yeah." I bet that's what they're like. Oh fuck, Sleepless in Seattle. Yeah, fucking come on.
Yeah, probably.
Don't wipe your fingers on the walls afterwards, Christ.
But I also think maybe because it was like one of Nora Ephron's first films she directed, because she'd written so many before, maybe that's another reason why it's been remembered so well, because it really launched her career in that sense. So yeah, we both went 10-9. I've got the final scores here. I think it's pretty obvious which way this is going. So
I don't know what you mean, because I've thrown out a lot of low scores. So actually, it could be either, and it'd just be both really low.
Well, they're not actually too low, to be fair. The winner with 191 is You've Got Mail, whereas Sleepless in Seattle has 185. So six points in it. It felt like there should have been more, actually, because it feels like we were really, really down on Sleepless in Seattle.
It feels like there definitely should have been more. You've Got Mail is the better film out of the two. And out of the two, if I had to rewatch either of them, like if it's on, I would probably rather rewatch You've Got Mail.
You should just do yourself a favour and watch The Shop Around the Corner instead with James Stewart. It's much better. It's a Christmas film, though, so I bet it's Christmas.
I'll have to wait till next year, sorry.
Yeah, great film.
I'll watch it now. It's February nearly. Is it February? Is it? Oh yeah, it's February now. Yes, because it's the 1st of February.
Yeah, it's the 1st right now. Yeah. Before we go, then, I just noticed when I was like looking into it. Have you seen the fucking run that Tom Hanks went on in that 90s with that? After, like, just before he did this film, he obviously had Saving Private Ryan the year before. Year before that, he directed and starred in one of the greatest fucking films of all time. In That Thing You Do, he had Toy Story, he had Forrest Gump, he had Philadelphia, he had Sleepless in Seattle. Like, that motherfucker was
somewhat of a run,
booked and busy with some fucking big dogs. Like, I don't think we've seen anything like that in a long time.
I think no, probably not.
No one really gets that sort of run anymore.
No, I mean, you get people. I think you get people that are like, "Oh, we like you. We'll put you in absolutely everything." Because we're seeing that with Pedro Pascal a little bit now, and we'll probably get it from that guy who was in Top Gun and in that film.
Glenn Powell.
We'll probably get that with Glenn Powell as well.
Yeah,
but they're not. As much as I hate to say it, because I do love him, they're not movie stars. Pedro, not Glenn Powell. Couldn't give a fuck about him. Like, they're not movie stars. They just, I don't know. It doesn't. Well, this conversation has been done to death, but like, nobody feels like movie stars outside of probably Tom Cruise.
I'd say Leo's in there as well.
Yeah, actually, I would agree with that. But even like Tom Hanks doesn't feel like a movie star. Like, back then, he felt like
not when he's doing Elvis.
No, he feels like a traditional movie star in the 90s. Like, you talk about all them films, you're like, fuck yeah. I remember, like, even as a kid, I remember like people talking about them. And as you're growing up, you're like, these are still fucking big movies. So, but I just don't think you get that as much anymore.
No, it's just sad, really. But
not really with actresses either, because again, with actresses, it's that same. Oh, we like you. We'll stick you in absolutely everything until people are sick of you. Like, that's what happened with Jennifer Lawrence. Like, people didn't. Same happened with Chris Pratt. everybody liked me until they didn't. It's just, especially like with a Twitter agent or ex-agent stuff, it just takes one tiny small comment for everybody to turn on you, and all of a sudden you're not really seen as much anymore. I think it's a bit sad, really. We don't really have proper movie stars anymore.
I think the closest we've got in terms of a woman being like a global movie star is probably Margot Robbie. I feel like every time she's in something, it's a big deal.
I was literally just about to say Margot Robbie.
She's incredible. But yeah,
not
death
Oscar,
of movies apparently.
Not Oscar nominated worthy.
Incredible. No, when was the last time she actually got nominated? Because she didn't get nominated for Babylon last year, either, which is a fucking crime.
No idea.
Been a while, I guess. Been a long time. Fuck knows. Maybe that I, Tonya, which I've never seen, the ice skating one.
Maybe.
Don't know if she got nominated for that, but fuck knows. But yeah, that brings this another episode to an end then. We hope you enjoyed the first episode of Rom-Com Month. We've got 7 more films for Nathan to watch and lose his mind over in the next few weeks. It's going to be very, very entertaining for me to watch. If you did like this video / podcast, then please feel free to like and subscribe on YouTube, or subscribe to the channel and leave us a review on any of the podcast channels. All information is below if you want to find us on anything else. Letterboxd and X. I think you're still ahead of me on films.
As of, well, this will be 1st of February. This is
so
today.
January's over. How many did you get? Did you reach 31?
That I can tell you exactly how many I reached because it's February now, and we're recording on Tuesday. This goes out on Thursday. So all I need to do is watch a film when we finish this, and then watch a film before I go to work tomorrow, and I'll have averaged out 31 movies for January.
Not bad at all.
And then I can take it easy. And then I can just take it easy, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to try and average out one a day forever. But I'm going to try for as long as possible. My minimum for this year is 200 movies that I've not logged on Letterboxd.
New watches.
Yeah, well, not new watches. There'll be films I've seen before, but I don't. We've talked about it loads. I don't log it if I've already watched it on Letterboxd. So every film that's on my Letterboxd is a new log. So I want to get a minimum 200, which I've still got another 23 Godzilla movies to do. So that could probably do it.
Yeah, Jesus, yeah. That's randomly. I know we're getting off on a tangent already. How's the Godzilla watch going? Because I haven't spoke to you about it yet. You made you with quite a few since you've mentioned.
I genuinely bring my Godzilla up. I genuinely thought that
like Vito Corleone and The Godfather with his cat.
See, you say that, I was thinking Dr. Evil. I thought that I'd watch a couple with them being old and cheesy and be like, I'm bored of this now. But I'm on my 9th one and still absolutely loving it. Though absolutely everybody who's ever seen them, and that's 2 people that I know of, have told me the next one is the worst one. So I'm like, I've put that one off for a couple of days. So I need to get that one out of the way so I can get back to the fun, good stuff. But I'm really fucking enjoying it. I think it's like 38, 39. I think the one that's coming out this year is a 39th one. So there's 38. Well, no, because I've watched all the American ones. So in total, there would be 34 that I'd have never seen before. And I've got through 9 of them. So that's
good progress.
Looking great progress. I don't know what I'm going to do after that. I feel like I need to do another big one. I ain't doing King Kong. Fuck that. No. I don't know how many times I can see a monkey climb a tower and die.
I know, yeah. They don't really do anything new with that, do they? But yeah, enough of that tangent. We'll be back next week when we are well into February. I'll be back at uni by then, which is kind of sad. Had a nice breakaway.
Well, 30.
Huh?
It'll be episode 30 next week.
Oh, yeah. Big one.
28 we've done together.
Yeah. It's a big one next week. To commemorate the anniversary, the milestone 30. We've got a decent episode lined up, so we hope to see you guys there. And thank you for watching this one. I hope you enjoyed the first episode of Rom-Com Month. And I hope you look forward to watching Nathan's spiral throughout the next few weeks.
The fact that we're ending on a Meg Ryan film is going to break me.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though, because that's like regarded as the best rom-com of all time, and she is definitely not a dickhead in that one.
Okay, we'll see.
So There's that.
Well,
If you find something wrong with that, then it's a you problem, I think.
Yeah, fair play. Fair enough.
Yeah, right. Peace out, guys. We'll see you next week.
Up my grind. Not in the good way, though.